I'm not ashamed to stand on a box. My name is Tim. I'm an alcoholic. I'm also a member of Al-Anon, which makes me dangerous. There's a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous near where I live, where they say we came for the drinking and we stayed for the thinking. And it's this is the speculation. Sometimes I think at that group they might spend a bit too much time thinking about the thinking, and the not drinking bit of AA takes a back seat, and that can be dangerous. I haven't had a drink since the 24th of July 1993, and not drinking is still the most important thing. When I take care of that, the emotions take care of themselves. I could stop there, but there is more. First things first, alcohol never ceases to be a question if one is an alcoholic. The thing that makes me an alcoholic, well, there are two things. There are two features. First feature, when I drink, I become someone that does not want to be sober again. I do not get sober. I am got to be sober by circumstances and providence and a power greater than myself, often against my will. So I dare not have the first drink. I'm told we have tens of thousands of thoughts a day. And all of those thoughts appear to me in the moment of my having of them to be terribly good thoughts. Why? Because they're mine. Now, with some careful reflection, I'll realize that many of them are not to be trusted. Now, some of those thoughts involve alcohol, and always will, because alcoholism is incurable. So when the thought of a drink crosses my mind, I better make sure I am not in charge. I'm acting only under delegated authority from a higher power, which means that the thought that has just come into my mind does not get a vote at the board table, which means I need to be under the supervision of the higher power every moment of every day for the rest of my life. Now, this question of emotional sobriety, it's a problematic phrase because sobriety with alcohol means an absence of alcohol from my system, whereas emotional sobriety cannot and should not mean an absence of emotion from my life. It must mean something else. Alcoholics, I speak as one, and I hope I'm not going too far in using the we form. I don't think we trust emotion or like emotion. The sponsees that I've had who anticipate an amend, potentially eliciting emotion on the part of the person hearing it, will say, well, I can't, it will harm them. Why? You're not revealing anything new. They were there when you did the thing. You're now apologizing. What possible harm do you think you're going to do by apologizing? Well, they're going to feel things because of the memories. And you have to sit them down and explain that regular people have feelings and are fine with it. It's only us that have a problem with feelings. Now, the further problem with the phrase emotional sobriety is one's got to decide what one means by emotion. And it's about as useful a word as the word sound. So if you're in First World War trenches, there are going to be sounds. If you're in a philharmonic hall listening to a concert, there are going to be sounds. These are very different types of sound. And the emotional noise that I came into AA with consisted almost exclusively in excitement, resentment, fear, guilt, and shame. Excitement about all of the wonderful plans the ways, the devices, the means, the schemes, the plots, the machinations, the whole, the fantasy world of what I would make of myself in the world when I'd finished this drink, and how I would manipulate people, how I would construct situations in which I could impress other people. That was the chief purpose. If I could impress other people sufficiently, I'd keep the wolf from the door. They would not get me. I didn't define who the they were, but that was the way to keep them safe, be on top of the pile, kick anyone who's in your way on the way up. Now, that to me is the self-willed run riot that it talks about on page 60 of the big book. This placement of myself as the center and main objective of my life, or of some department thereof. The refusal to admit my status as a creature created by a power greater than myself, and my rebellion, my usurpation of that role of author of myself. I shall make something of myself. In the material plane, which is short and dangerous, so I'd better get on with it. Now, what I learned through the steps was that whole way of living was the reason I was full of resentment because I hadn't got my own way, fear because I might not get my own way, guilt because I was unable to live up to my own job description of master of the universe, and shame because underneath all of the rageful attacks that rattled constantly through my mind, like watching multiple screens at once of different series of Game of Thrones. That constant mental attack of other people was why I felt such shame. Because murdering your heart or murdering fact, there are differences in law, but spiritually not. That machine needed to be shut, that war machine needed to be shut down. And that is what a solid step 4 will do. And my experience is that the big book, it followed precisely and carefully under the supervision of someone that knows what they're doing, because they've done it themselves and they've thought about it a little bit along the way. That is sufficient to deactivate the mechanism, the noise-making mechanism. It's enough to bring about a truce in the war. And I thought for many years that depth in recovery was about uncovering ever further layers of the self, that I was going to discover more interesting facets of my personality and my wretched childhood and the dynamics of my wretched childhood. That there'd be this never-ending journey. God, that's not the case. There is a journey, but it's a different. The point is to get all that trash out of the way so that I can actually start living. There's an American speaker, but this is the only conference I've been to where the Americans are outnumbered. Now you know how it feels for the rest of us. But there's a very, we love you all. But there's a wonderful American speaker who says the two things that he needed to know about his childhood are, number one, it was very, very long, and number two, it's over. At some point, I needed to get over it. And the way I got over it in step 4 was to recognize that, no, they didn't do their best, but it's over. It really is. If I'm reacting badly to something today, it is because of today's mechanism, not because of what happened 30 years ago. At the point at which the mechanism was installed, I acquired full ownership and title deeds for that mechanism. It is not and was never about them. I needed, with the past and the present, to withdraw every single demand that other people behave as I wish. And the chief reason why this was a sound approach was not only that I would be more at peace, but the whole notion of running through the world trying to get my demands met, before one even takes step 3, there is this requirement that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. What that means is, ordinary plain English, is trying to get your own way will make you very, very unhappy, because you won't be able to get your own way, and on the rare occasions you do, it will be ashes in your mouth, and 4.5 seconds later you will be casting around looking for the next plot, plan, scheme, plan, or design. So I'm upset because I haven't got my own way, and yet to get my own way wouldn't make me happy in the first place. To recognize that my resentment machine is based on an insane set of premises, needs to be deactivated. Forgiveness is not saying the world is wicked, that I'm going to paste holiness on top of it. It's about recognizing that I need to unbuild the structures that I built within. That's how I forgave. To get rid of the fear. If I am a physical body, and that is all I am, I'm doomed. But I'm not. I'm spirit that happens to be housed temporarily in a physical form. This is not something, I'm saying it, and there's almost no point in saying it, because unless one has realized it, it can't be heard, and it certainly can't be learned or inculcated. But I think it happens in step 12, when you hear other people reading their inventory, and you realize the person reading the inventory is not the person who did the things, that the person is separate from the behavior in the material world. You can see through the behavior to something innocent and precious on the far side of it. And if you hear that enough, and you hear your own story told back to you enough times, you realize that you've been forgiven as well, that I was never the wicked things that I did. Those were the actions of someone in the dream world, which is why I felt so bad about them, because I recognized they were. Getting in touch with the fact that when I die, the most that will happen will be what Anne Lamott describes as a fairly major change of address. That is the answer to fear. I know of no other. If you know another one, good luck to you. But I know of no answer in the material world to fear if the material world is all there is. You can rationalize all your life and build a little castle up in the hills. It's going to get you. But happiness is possible. And this is the thing that I saw in my very first AA meeting, people in the most terrible circumstances who were fine. Wonderful. And that's a very interesting lesson in AA, to recognize that how people are doing does not correlate one bit with what is going on in their lives. When I think of my whinging in the fancy parts of London, if you're from Sydney, if you're from the North Shore, you'll know a little bit about the preciousness that certain of us can have. Beautiful lives and full of misery. That's what I was like for many years in AA. The calls, as Astrid would say, the calls are coming from within the house. The problem lies within you. It's not like that. When the storm died out through forgiveness of others, which handled resentment, through trust of God, which handled fear, through making every single last amend, even the tiny, ridiculous, pesky ones from 30 years ago that I thought would be far too trivial to trouble me. When I recognized my innate value as a human being by recognizing the innate value of other people as human beings, the sound of the trench warfare started to die down, and I realized that the world was full of other sounds. Now, the thermonuclear blast, which released me from that noisy wind tunnel was not the end of the self-examination. I think a very good rule of thumb, I got this from Al-Anon member, is at the end of the day, when one is doing one's step 11 review, the page 86 review, to look out for situations where one's emotional reaction has been something other than timely, appropriate, and proportionate. So if I've overreacted to something, that's worth a look, because I'm not really reacting to the situation itself. It reminds me of something which has not been healed, and I need to go back and heal that thing. Not through some complex process or going to a shaman or anything like that, although if that works for you, again, good luck to you, whatever you do. But simply by surrendering it to God and asking for a new perspective. I don't work anything out. I don't work anything through. All I've done on the steps is observe, disclose, give it to God. No analysis. I think one pencil would last me 5 years with infection because monosyllabic. The step 11 review, I'm resentful of this. No analysis, because it says work. Were we resentful? Yes, give it to God. See what God does with my perspective on the situation. And something comes in sideways, which gives me a new view. And this has saved me years of work and thousands of pounds worth of external help by simply going straight to God. Do not pass go, do not. It connects to whatever one does with the $200, pay $200 of letter. Anyway, just go straight to God, because God knows what I want, and God knows what I need. God knows what to do with this situation. And the world is very rich and complex. There are enough channels for God to use without me having to create them. The result of that first major clearing out and the subsequent daily sweepings leave me in a position where I'm able to actually see what's going on in the world. There's an Iris Murdoch novel, which I'm not sure I recommend, but I read it, called The Sea. And in it, there are two characters that are polar opposites. One is pure, unremitting chaos of selfishness and fantasy and bullying and tyranny and self-deception and manipulation of others. And the other one can walk into the most complex of situations, see precisely what is going on, and act in a way which immediately diffuses and solves the problem. I can't possibly act right if there's any noise going on inside me, because I won't see what's going on inside you. I won't recognize the facial expressions. I won't hear the verbal tics. I won't hear the non-sequiturs, the gaps in how people express things, the things that don't make sense, the bits where people's minds flip or flick from one thing to another without going through the intermediate stages. The point of this emotional sobriety business, which is, I think, about points, is being able to respond to what is really going on out there. It's not for my own benefit. It's not so I can be comfortable, it's so I can be useful. And the other thing as well, I think I got far more emotion today than I did when I came in. When I came in, everything was red and black. There's no subtlety or interest in resentment, fear, guilt, or shame. There are claxons going off. That is all. When those die down, there's a full range of emotions to be experienced at every moment throughout every day. And to be able to be present for those without grabbing hold of them, wanting to keep them, wanting to construct situations to make them last forever. But also, just one last thing. I was dealt with by a lot of professionals who had these mill-pond faces. You couldn't get them to react. The people in AA, they had real emotions. They were present. When I jerked them around, they showed their emotional responses to me. And that's how I learned to behave appropriately, by ordinary people who are in touch with reality, reacting emotionally appropriately. And so emotional sobriety is not about me being a mill pond, it's about me being authentic, which means I'm not tailored. That's what I've got. Thank you.